I think what happens is personnel staff makes calls and they all have conversations as this thing leads up to it. And, um, I would just say continue to do our due diligence about what those may be and what those look like, and then make a decision that we think is best for us.
Foxborough Rush coming at you one day after the NFL trade deadline and the Patriots stand pat. We saw a flurry of movement within the AFC East, particularly out of the New York Jets. We'll touch upon that coming up here. We'll also talk about where the Patriots stand right now as one of the best teams in the National Football League with that 7-2 record. Get into their matchup a little bit against Tampa Bay this week. Make some picks for other games coming our way as we turn the corner. Week 10. It is week 10 in the NFL. Keagan Stiefel, Jade McCarthy here with you for the next hour on Foxborough Rush. I see that shake of the head. It does creep up on you, right, Keegan?
The fact that it's November is insane. Maybe it's the weather. It's been so kind of up and down. I'm like, all right, week 7, the Patriots might be for real. And then all of a sudden you actually look at it. They are for real. 7-2. We're in November. This is real football. We talked about it for 20 years. This is when the football that matters starts to be played. And it's starting this week, right? It's on Sunday in Tampa Bay. The weather's going to be a little bit different down there, obviously. But it's exciting stuff. An exciting time to be a Patriots fan for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, season starts after Thanksgiving. That was the mantra for so long. Guess what? We're almost at Thanksgiving. Order the turkey. Like we're getting close to it. Yeah, I mean, you look at where they were this week, and I think because of that 7-2 record, there was a lot of, will they decide to make a move at the deadline? I think if you look at a lot of the players that wound up being moved, Keegan, not many of them, maybe one of them was a fit really for what New England was looking for.
Yeah, it seemed to me that, you said it, right? They or Mike Vrabel said it. They were going to make calls and have conversations. I think, every team obviously does that. I think a lot of the conversations were exploratory, especially with players that have some term under their belt where, all right, we'll talk to you now. The price is going to be way too high right now, but maybe we'll circle back in the offseason. Maybe we can open the dialogue now and continue to talk and get something done later down the line. It seemed to me that most teams went through that kind of scenario, and it was only really the New York Jets who decided there's no sense in waiting. We're going to get the best that we can get right now. They shipped off maybe their 2 best players, and everybody else kind of stood pat. The Dallas Cowboys got better. They get Quinnen Williams. The Indianapolis Colts get a lot better. They get Sauce Gardner. Other than that, I don't know if any of these moves are really going to put anybody over the top. Maybe 1 or 2 are going to help, but nothing, ground shaking, nothing to make anybody really too nervous.
Yeah. I mean, the Chargers obviously get a replacement on the line with Joe Alt done for the season. That's something that they had to have. I don't know if that's a difference maker for them. I mean, he is sort of the engine that can for that team.
Right.
So I think that's going to be interesting to watch. Howie Roseman and the Philadelphia Eagles making moves as they often do. But I also think that it's one of those things that you look at his ability to give up a third, to get a Jalen Phillips. I think he still has 2 more threes in the bank. Like,
right.
It's one of those things where it's a lot easier to give those things up when you have a stockpile. And the Patriots are in a place where they're trying to get to that point. So you don't want to be giving stuff up, I don't want to say unnecessarily, but with longer term consequences.
Yeah, the bigger moves that we saw all involved extremely flawed players, and I think that's something that fans maybe forget, because you see the name Jalen Phillips and you know what he's capable of, but this is a guy who has multiple season-ending injuries under his belt, and it goes back to college. He was medically retired at one point before coming back and being able to make it to the NFL. That's something that he's dealt with for a very long time, and that's something that the Philadelphia Eagles are going to have to be careful with. Joe Alt going down and they go get Trevor Penning, historically terrible as an offensive tackle. The New Orleans Saints drafted him to be their left tackle and then had to move him inside to guard because he was that bad. He was, a danger to their quarterback being out there. So is that the guy you want to replace your all-world left tackle or right tackle turned left tackle? I don't know. that's a mess over there. And then Rashid Shaheed is the biggest one I saw that I really enjoyed. Like, I liked that move by the Seattle Seahawks, but he's also a one-dimensional speed threat receiver. It just so happens that that's the one thing they need. They've got the guy who can work underneath, maybe the best wide receiver in the NFL right now, and JSN. So they're happy to kind of bring that speed element to their offense, and that's great. But again, really one-dimensional player, and for what they gave up for him, I still think it's kind of a wash in terms of overall value, because you give up a third, fourth round pick for a guy like that. You're really betting on him hitting in that one area of your offense, because he's not going to give you much else.
Yeah. I think the other one that caught my attention just because of, the Patriots' interest in potentially bringing in a pass rusher was, Tennessee moving Draymond Jones to the Baltimore Ravens.
Right.
I think it was Mike Reese who commented, "I'm not convinced that the Titans would have played ball with the Patriots on a move," which very well could be the case. That was sort of the only one that really caught my attention, again, just because of where the Patriots were looking. There was obviously a lot of talk late in the afternoon, Breece Hall saying, "I want out of New York," watching everything that had gone down in the hours leading up to it. He does not, in fact, end up getting moved. There was some talk as to, is that a player that the Patriots would go after? But again, you're probably paying an in-division tax to get a player like that. And is it really worth giving up a third, which is what the Jets reportedly wanted for Breece Hall? So those are the other two that sort of, the one that didn't happen and then the one that did.
Yeah, we heard it from Mike Reese. We also heard it from Mike Giardi. So that's two people who are plugged in with the Patriots who kind of floated the idea that Tennessee was not going to do business. And it all goes back to the way things ended with Mike Vrabel there. What a ridiculous way to do business if you're the Titans, but they've shown that that's kind of who they are. So, you weren't going to go get any of their trade chips, we'll say. Draymond Jones, Arden Key, Tony Pollard, all of them are great names to think of. It was never going to happen. Obviously, the two trades with the Jets, never going to happen. They're in division. They're, two of the better defensive players in football. They're not going to go give them to the Patriots, who I believe that's the last team the New York Jets were going to do business with, were the New England Patriots, because that's as close as it gets to you're just handing things over in the division to a team that's really going to separate themselves from you.
Yeah. By the way, we still have 2 games against the New York Jets coming our way this season, and obviously, they'll be a bit different looking. We did see some, the impact numbers, from both Williams and Sauce Gardner trend downhill. But again, I mean, those are high impact players, and Indy and Dallas obviously believe that they're going to be highly impactful on their rosters moving forward. Let's talk a little bit just about a couple things following New England, one of which being that they did make a move on the practice squad, a name that is familiar. And, I think as he puts it on social, everything has to be earned. Nothing is given to you because of name. And that would be because his dad has a pretty big name in the National Football League. But the Patriots signed Jerry Rice's son, Brendan Rice, to the practice squad. He was a 2024 7th round pick by the Chargers. Played 3 offensive snaps for them last season, was waived late this summer. So they bring him in on the practice squad. Look, I mean, to me, part of this is you had Kayshon Boutte go down, obviously, with an injury on Sunday, didn't return. It's a hamstring injury. So if you can round out a little depth at receiver, add another big body on your practice squad, that adds up to, what's the harm here?
Yeah, it can't hurt. I see, any practice squad signing as who can you go mimic? Who are the Patriots going to be playing in the coming weeks? T. Higgins is coming up on the schedule. There are a couple more big body receivers. It doesn't hurt to get another guy in there. I see the signing. I go and look at the practice squad just to kind of get a feel for who's on there. They've got a lot of size at the skill position groups, and I think that's done on purpose. They're probably a pain in the butt to play against, and Mike Vrabel wants that. He wants the Patriots to be well prepared and have guys who are physical and mean and nasty and not fun to practice against. So these guys who are out there playing on Sundays are prepared for whatever comes for them. I think that's probably more what Brendan Rice's role will be. Kayshon Boutte, we saw, and I know we're going to bring it up, he's got a Discord server, apparently. I didn't know about it. I wish I did. I don't have a Discord account, but I would make one so I could, keep up with all things Kayshon Boutte. But he said it's a grade 1 hamstring strain. Who knows if he'll be ready this week, but it doesn't look like it's going to stretch beyond Sunday. He should be ready by next Thursday against the New York Jets. So that's good news on that front. And then you bring guys into the practice squad. You kind of beef up the receiving core. They have guys there already. Maybe a John Giles is somebody who steps up this week because he knows the offense. He's been in the system all year. And then Brendan Rice can go and play the role of whoever on the other sideline, Emeka Ibuka, let's say, during practices. So it's a little bit of an assembly line. Everybody has their order that they go in. In the grand scheme of things, this is not the move that Patriots fans wanted to see on Tuesday, but it's really the only one that they got.
Yeah, no, it is. And I mean, look no further than Drake London to know how they've struggled against big bodied receivers. We saw it in person all day long against the Atlanta Falcons. So it certainly does not hurt to have another one that you have to go up against during practice. When it comes to Kayshon Boutte, when the Discord server thing popped up, I too do not have a Discord account, but apparently you can create one and follow the family. It's a pretty easy step. I would also just caution, I imagine that there are some conversations being had with Kayshon Boutte about how much he shared on the Discord server, because we all know that one of the fundamental rules in Foxborough is we don't share our injury information beyond what we have to share with the league. I'm pretty sure the Discord server is not part of sharing the information with the league, Keegan.
I don't think it's NFL sanctioned. No, maybe they'll let him fill out the injury report next week just to get it over with. Here you got to do it. Now shut up about injuries. Never talk about them again. Probably not the best idea to announce. I know he meant it. He meant well. He wanted to share it with his fans and say, "Hey guys, I'm not going to be gone for too long. I'm healthy. We're good." That's awesome. Yeah. Mike Vrabel doesn't care about Kayshon Boutte's 13-year-olds who are on his Discord server. He couldn't care less. I'm sure he's going to hear an earful about that all week, if not for the rest of the year, because it's a very silly and funny thing to happen that NFL players are now updating people on Discord servers. Who knew?
Yeah. There you go. Who knew? Right? I mean, it's another thing to have to get on to find out injury information in the NFL, right? I mean,
I've got 725 apps just to follow the NFL. It's my phone is full of all right, I can watch it on these 9 apps. I can get injury information on these 4. I have to have Instagram because Stephon Diggs and Cardi B are doing all their stuff over there. So
yeah,
it's
that's
insane.
Where they do their stuff. I mean,
not only can you not get away from it, you also can't find all of it. It's very frustrating that as somebody who follows and covers the NFL, I want it all. I can't even they don't even make it possible for you to get it all. You can only get glimpses of it. And that's what keeps us coming back and wanting more, I guess.
Yeah. Well, and there's no streamline, that's for sure. I mean, you got to be all over the place, tapped into all different things, to figure out the very latest. And by the way, given what happened with Lamar Jackson earlier this year, given everything with gambling now, there is even more eyeballs when it comes to injury reporting. So, zip it up is going to be the word from the head coach and his cohorts when it comes to Discord and any other server that you might want to share on when it comes to injury updates. Look, as you look at this game that they have on Sunday, and I know we looked ahead at the schedule and we were like, all right, can they have a 10-game win streak? What do you think? And this was sort of the one that you were like, I don't know. Can you ask me this question after we get through the Bucks game? Bucks coming off of a bye. If you look at what they've done their last 2 weeks versus what they did their first 6 weeks, it's a pretty big difference. I mean, their points per game is way down. Obviously, they've had significant injuries, to their skill position players. Baker is still one of those guys that, you never count him out. I mean, that's just where it is at this point in time. And obviously they finish very strong. We've seen them come back and win some games, in that fourth quarter frenetic fashion. However, I think with New England, we've said, great, we got the strong start, against the Atlanta Falcons. This is one of those weeks again where it's like, you got to play the full 60 minutes. You're going to have to shut them down late, because I just don't think you can ever count this Bucs team out.
Yeah, if you play kind of in a similar fashion that you did last weekend, you're going to get killed. They're going to come back and they're going to destroy you. The Buccaneers are closers. Their quarterback's a gamer. He's the kind of guy who you could be down 25 points in the fourth quarter and he thinks he can win the football game. So he's never out of it. I think they're so young right now with all the injuries that these guys don't know any better. They don't know that they're out of games. That's why they've been so good late in games, because they're just like, all right, Mekabuka, when he was at Ohio State, they could score 40 on Illinois in the fourth quarter, So he's like, yeah, no problem. We'll go score 40. So it's not the team that you want to mess with. You want to kind of play with your food. The Patriots are going to have to, maybe for the first time this season, play a full 60-minute game where they start fast. They're able to carry momentum throughout the game, avoid mistakes, and then in the fourth quarter, like we've seen in some weeks and like we've seen them, fail to do in others, if you're up and you get the ball with 5-6 minutes left, can you just kill it? Can you end the game right there? We saw them do it last week. We've seen them do it a couple other times this season, but it's not so easy. The personnel that they have right now wouldn't lead you to believe that they're capable of doing that on a consistent basis. I think that's the biggest thing that you're going to be watching for this week. Can they start fast? Can they carry the momentum? And number one, first and foremost, can they finish a football game?
Yeah. And, the time of possession is significant to watch, right? How are they able to fare? Can they continue to, like you said, run the ball? What's it going to look like for Ramondre this week? Obviously, they get out there and start practicing this afternoon. That's going to be one to watch. We heard Mike Vrabel say that he didn't think Kayshon Boutte was going to be out there for the early practices this week. And it would have to sort of see how it trends leading, into Sunday. So expecting that he's not going to be out there to get things started today, but these are all significant factors, as they get set to go on and take on that Todd Bowles defense. Again, it feels to me like a day where we've seen Drake Maye get sacked. I think it's 6 times in back-to-back weeks. Right. It was a host of everybody, against the Falcons, and it was the Myles Garrett show against the Cleveland Browns. Again, this is a Tampa defense that, they are not afraid to bring the pressure and get after Drake Maye. So I think that's going to be one to watch as well. Like, how is this offensive line going to play and stand up to some of that pressure? And can Drake Maye continue to do what he's done, for the last 8 games, minus a few mistakes, obviously hold on to the football in the process, make those plays, deep down the field, keep the ball moving, get it when he absolutely has to have it.
Yeah, it's interesting too, because with Kayshon Boutte out this week, we presume that's kind of been his safety net against blitzes, is like these hole shots down the sideline. He's been phenomenal doing it, but you're not going to have the guy who's gotten open on all of those the last few weeks. So who steps up into that role, I think, is an interesting conversation. Or do they just completely go away from that way of thinking and continue to target the tight ends and Stephon Diggs? Because that's really the other area in which he's been really proficient. When he's targeting his tight ends, I don't think there's a better quarterback in the NFL. Yeah. And it's been that way for a long time in New England and Josh McDaniels' offenses. When you target those guys, you're moving it pretty well. Your offense is clicking. So I wonder if they're going to step up and take more of the the onus on offense and take more of the game plan focus. And then the running game, obviously, with or without Ramondre Stevenson, it's a completely different unit. They're not really able to run the ball between the tackles without him. And it's going to be hard to do that anyway, because Vita Vea plays on that other side, and he's maybe the scariest player in the NFL right now in terms of trying to run the football. So it's interesting. It looks like a matchup nightmare for the Patriots, in my opinion. Just the way Tampa Bay is set up, and even with all the injuries they have, all of their strengths are there to exploit the Patriots' weaknesses, specifically the weaknesses that they'll have without Kayshon Boutte and without Ramondre Stevenson, presuming those guys don't play. So it's a tough matchup this week. You just kind of want to see, at least from my perspective, I'm still in the camp that the window isn't open yet for the Patriots. They're in the process of opening it. If they can stay competitive and if they can, overcome some of their weaknesses this week against a team that's set out to exploit them, that's when you start to believe a little bit more, even if they do lose. All right, maybe they're getting there. Maybe they're closer to being a contender than and other people as well think that they are.
So satisfied in your mind is go play a clean, complete 60-minute game against the Tampa Bay Bucks, and as long as you're not, losing by 14, more than a touchdown.
I mean,
like you're satisfied.
Score is so interesting because there are some things that could happen and the score could get out of hand, and you're like, whatever. It was a fluke. They were trying to come back and they forced a throw.
Like discounting garbage time, right? Like
right.
Discounting any like garbage time touchdown, that kind of thing.
I'll say the three things I'm looking for are: can you protect Drake Maye? Can you take care of the football? So no fumbles. Can he take care of it? No interceptions. Don't force anything. And defensively, can you stay competitive against a unit that like they're never out of it? Even early in the games when they struggle, they seem to figure something out along the way. Can you put together long, sustained stretches where you're stopping a really potent offense, even without two of their top receivers? Those are the three things I'm looking for. So even if they end up losing 35-21, something like that, it gets out of hand late in the game. If you can take care of it, if you can stay competitive for most of the game, I'm fine with it. Because, like I said, this isn't a Super Bowl contender to me. As much as we love what the Patriots are doing, and as impressive as it's been compared to what they've done the last two seasons, the window for a Super Bowl isn't open for them. So continue opening it. It's jammed a little bit. Can you shove it up a little bit more, get 2 more inches open, and start to feel good as you move forward? Because, again, coming up, you got the Jets twice. You've got the Bengals. These are games you should win. You can still get into the playoffs with losing this. You're not worried about this loss kind of having an effect on your overall record. It's just, are you competitive against a team that is going to compete for a Super Bowl this year?
Yeah, I think the one thing I would say is you look at Washington, and obviously they've dealt with so many injuries this year, and it's been a very different return from what they did last year, right? But I mean, they went out there last year and they made it to the NFC Championship game, right? And a friend of mine does their play-by-play, and he was like, "Look, it was a magic carpet ride of the season."
Yeah.
But the Patriots are sitting there, and if you look at 7-2 teams historically, they have a better than 90% chance of making the playoffs. So if the Patriots can take care of business, then they put themselves in the dance, right? I mean, it's a different formula now with the number of teams that get in and all these different things. Like it is different than it previously had been. So as much as it's like it's not the window. Well, look what Washington did last year. And yeah, they eventually went and lost to the Eagles in the NFC Championship game before Philly went on to win the Super Bowl. But if you can get in there and if you can be hitting your stride at the right time, there's no saying that they can't make some noise in the playoffs, despite the fact that they're not in their window.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. The one kind of pushback I would give is Washington, and the reason they're struggling this year is because they went about it this way. They brought in so many veterans. Like, guys, they were the oldest team in football last year. So Bobby Wagner and Zach Ertz, all those guys had experience playing in the playoffs, and the leadership on that team was such a leg up that they had because they had that over Detroit and over other teams who they were able to beat to get to the point that they got to. So I think that's the difference, where the Patriots have a ton of guys, a ton of young guys who have never been there before. Milton Williams won the Super Bowl last year. Sure. There's one. What else can you name? And I understand that the quarterback situation, both young guys, Jaden Daniels was a rookie last year. Drake Maye is obviously in his second year this year. So that's kind of a wash. But everything around them, and especially with the depth for the Patriots, they're one injury away from the wheels falling.
Yeah, no, I agree with that wholeheartedly. I mean, I think the depth thing is a huge issue. But I also would just say that, like you said about Tampa, they don't know what they don't know. And I think the Patriots fall into that same category. They don't know what they don't know. So it's like, if you go in there and find yourself in a game and you can go play 60 minutes turnover free, and hang around, sometimes it comes down to, we often see it comes down to the very bitter end as you get further into the season, good teams against good teams. And sometimes you're the team that makes the play. So, I agree with everything that you're saying. I'm just playing devil's advocate a little bit
For
because
sure.
they've put themselves in a position at this point in time where they can gain some really tremendous experience with where they are this season. And when you're building for, the future, I think that might be the greatest thing of all of it, is that they didn't go in and pull in all these veterans, and they are, making sure that they didn't throw anything away at the trade deadline, and they have everything to invest in what's to come. And yet you're still sitting there at 7-2, and you're still in a position to gain some really significant experience that is going to help as you do all those things moving forward. Okay, I have to stop talking. We're going to take a quick break. We got much more to get to here on Foxborough Rush. We'll grade some of the moves that were made, and we'll look at all the moves that the Jets will have to make come draft season. Plus, we'll talk about some of the other games on tap for Week 10. Yeah, I have to pause as I say that. Week 10. We'll be back with more Foxborough Rush right after that. Welcome back into Foxborough Rush on your Wednesday morning, kind of wrapping up the trade talk. And obviously, the Jets are saying we're not wrapping anything up because look at what we get to do for the next couple of drafts. I mean, this is a stockpile. Like, I don't know how else to describe what they have. So 2026, they have their own pick. They also have Indy's round 1 pick. Then they have 2 in round 2. One of them, of course, from Dallas. Those 2 picks coming, via Sauce Gardner, Quinnen Williams. And then they have, 4, 6, 7, 7. 6, 7. Did you get that? And then in 2027, they have 3 round 1 picks, and then 2, 3, 4. I won't keep going. You can see the rest. But look, I mean, this is essentially their chance to go out there and change the fortune of the franchise. I mean, that's what they decided that they were going to do. I feel like, in part, Aaron Glenn went in there, watched what he had for the first 9 weeks of the season, and kind of was like, I'm going to blow it up. Like, that was the decision that they came to collectively as an organization. And now, Keegan, I'm sure, you can have read some of the same stuff, but you look at guys that, project the draft and look at the draft, and the 2027 draft is expected to be one of the best, certainly that we've seen in a long time. The 26 draft, next spring's draft is supposed to be better than the last couple that we've seen. So at the very least, they have put themselves in a position to make some choices in terms of how they want to build this team. You got to hit the picks. Like, none of it does any good if you don't hit the picks. We don't need to repeat that twice. We know that deal in New England, given some recent drafts here.
Yeah, I think that's the issue with the Jets is they've nailed the picks and then not capitalized on it, or they've completely whiffed on them and then put a bunch of money into everything around them, and that has failed as well. They've never really gotten there where everything's kind of melded together. But every move that they made yesterday and that they've made in the last few months would point toward the fact that they're trying to get it right starting in 2027, because 3 first-round picks in a draft where, like you mentioned, the 2 guys that I have an eye on, and I think the Jets have an eye on, Ohio State quarterback Julian Sayin, Ohio State wide receiver Jeremiah Smith. Jeremiah Smith would be the number 1 pick today if he were able to come out. He's not eligible. Julian Sayin would be the number 2 pick probably. He's not eligible. So they're firing their eggs into that basket. And I think they're looking to kind of get to that point where they're able to, now with 3 picks, use their own, maybe use another, move up and grab one of those guys, or at least somebody who's going to be able to turn the fortunes around, because their franchise has gone through the ringer, really. Like we mentioned it, Quinnen Williams, Sauce Gardner, Garrett Wilson. Those are 3 cornerstone players that they drafted in the first round, and they nailed those picks. Guys that were effective right away. They raised the floor and the ceiling of your team. That's everything you could ask for out of a first-round pick. But they fumbled everything around it. The Zach Wilson pick was a disaster, and they were never able to get somebody in the building who was going to give them consistency at quarterback. Obviously, the Aaron Rodgers thing, if his Achilles doesn't go, who knows where we are right now. But it does, you trust an old quarterback to come in and be the difference maker, and obviously he gets hurt and he's not. The circus that came with that was a disaster for them. And then they move into this era where I think coming into the season, they knew, all right, we'll give Justin Fields $10 million and he can be our starter. And then we'll go get a veteran backup in Tyrod Taylor. And what those two guys are going to do are they're going to ensure that we're bad enough at the trade deadline that we can, I don't know, I don't even know the word for it, but justify, I guess, getting rid of a two-time All-Pro that's only played 3 seasons and the best pass rushing defensive tackle in the NFL, because that's what they did. 2 insane moves, but if you look at it in the totality and the grand scheme of things, process over results, something that we talked about during the break, this is the process, the start of a process to become a real contender. So kudos to the Jets, because they made 2 insane, really hard but smart decisions on Tuesday, getting rid of their 2 best players and 2 guys that are going to go make a difference for teams that are trying to make the playoffs. Really hard decision, but kudos to them, because I think in the long run, if they're able to nail these draft picks like they have in the past few seasons, obviously different people making those decisions, they're going to be in decent shape heading into 2028, 2029.
Yeah, well, they got to find a quarterback, because none of it is going to matter if they don't use one of those picks to find a quarterback. Let's give some grades. Let's give some grades to them. You look at what they did with Sauce, obviously, gave up a lot, right? I mean, 2 first-rounders, 2026, 2027. A.D. Mitchell, went from the Colts to the Jets. I think that's a hefty price, especially for, a guy who you just extended too. I mean, so, I mean, to me, it's like, this is a huge win, I guess, for the Jets. I think if you're the Colts, you gave up a lot to get him.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. We're going A+ for the Jets for me, because with everything I mentioned, with the fact that you were never going to compete in the window of Sauce Gardner's contract. So go get rid of him. You bring in a receiver who's never had an opportunity in Indy, who's kind of buried on the depth chart, has made a couple bad decisions that have helped bury him, but really talented guy, was looked at as a first-round pick going into the draft, ended up slipping to the second. And then 2 first-round picks, those are darts that you're able to throw at the board to try to refill this thing up. For Indy, you better go win a Super Bowl, because if you don't, it could get pretty ugly pretty fast, because the amount of money that you owe some people, the Daniel Jones contract is going to have to get restructured. So now all of a sudden you're paying a lot of money for a team that is good, obviously, and they're built really well. The depth that they have is tremendous, but you're going to start owing a lot of money to a lot of different people, and it's going to hamstring what you're able to do, or how you're able to get better moving forward. So if you don't win now, you're in a tough spot.
Well, and very clearly it's a vote in confidence that Daniel Jones is their future, because you're not parting ways with all those picks if you have any inkling that you're going to be in the quarterback market. The Jets obviously also working with Dallas, and Jerry Jones kept hinting at it. We're not done. We're going to make a deal. Blah 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 blah. Being Jerry, right? So they. Quentin Williams is, look, I mean, it's a great deal in the sense that Dallas needed help, right? I mean, they get him, they get Logan Wilson as well from Cincinnati. How do you grade these two? What the Cowboys did and what they gave up to move forward here? I don't know if those 2 guys are going to completely change Dallas's defense.
They're not. I don't understand what Dallas is doing. Quentin Williams is a tremendous, maybe one of my favorite players in football. I think he is a game wrecker. He changes the way defenses play defense, the way offenses play offense. He's that good. That's maybe the worst defense in football right now. So the one player isn't going to fix everything. Like, he can get after the passer. You've got a couple guys that can get after the passer. It doesn't matter when you can't cover for more than 2 seconds. Like, the teams are going to beat you over the top until you're able to fix that problem. Again, for the Jets, Mozzie Smith, talented player who never really got to the point that everybody thought he would. And then a second-round pick this year and a first-round pick in 2027 that could be juicy. Like, we're talking top 15 pick. You match that up with a second, and you can jump into the top 5. We all assume the Jets are going to already be in the top 5. So you're looking at a team who could possibly have 3 first-round picks and one of them being a top 5, or 2 of them being a top 5 pick. That's
2 of them being a top 5. Yeah.
Yeah. That's how you want to start a franchise right there, how you want to reset things. So kudos to the Jets. I'll say it till I'm blue in the face. They've done a really good job ripping the Band-Aid off and looking toward the future.
Yeah, look, I mean, if you don't think you got it, then you might as well find a way to remedy it all at the same time, because you can't compete in this league without a quarterback. We all know that. And at some point, it's like, well, it's great to have all these pieces on defense, but if it's not in a window because you don't have a quarterback, what good does it do? Like, go out there and like, can you, I mean, if you're Saw, who, reportedly had no idea this was a possibility, but did get a call from Aaron Glenn. I mean, he just went from a 1-win team to the Indianapolis Colts, who have, one of the best records in football. Talk about a swing. I mean,
yeah.
Wow. Yeah. All right. Seattle, of course, we mentioned, they get Rashid Shaheed from New Orleans, for a 26th, 4th, and 5th. How do you grade this one out, Keegan?
I like it for the Saints again, and this might just be my draft Nick guy talking, where I love the draft, and I think all these picks are really valuable. You can package 4th and 5th round picks to move up, and the Saints are in a similar position as the Jets, where the only thing they should be doing is obtaining draft picks. And they did that. For the Seahawks, there are 2 sides to the same coin, where Rashid Shaheed's really talented, and he fits what they need. He's got speed, and he can kind of bring a different element to that offense, so that's great. But you also give up future assets for a guy who might not be there in 6 months because he goes and signs somewhere else in free agency. So that's another example of a team kind of putting all their eggs into a basket and really going for it this year. I like Seattle's chances a little bit better than Indy's because the NFC is deep, but they're all kind of on the same playing field, where the AFC, the teams at the top are worse than some of the teams behind them. Like Buffalo and Kansas City are still the teams to beat. So I like Seattle's chances a little bit better than Indy's. So I like this move a little bit better than I like the Indy move. But again, you're giving up a lot of pieces for somebody who might only, bring you a small amount of improvement on that offense, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, is the juice worth the squeeze, right? I mean, how far is it going to get you this year? That's really what it amounts to. Because, or are they going to decide that they're going to figure something out and he becomes a long-term piece there? And is that what Rashid Shaheed wants as well? Like, those are all questions that have to be answered. Old friend Jacoby
Myers. He might not
Myers,
like fish, so you're screwed at that point.
Old friend Jacoby Myers wanted out of Vegas. We knew that, dating back to training camp. There were obviously some questions being asked as to would he be a good fit here in New England. It's Jacksonville that goes and makes the deal to bring him in for a 4th and a 6th. This one was a little surprising to me. I mean, look, I know you're dealing with the Travis Hunter, non-contact knee injury from practice last week, and it was a little odd, we don't think it's an ACL, but he's immediately on the IR. You're kind of going, okay, so is it meniscus? Like, clearly it's significant, if you're immediately putting him on the IR. So I understand that you need some depth there. But again, this is a team that you're trading away a 4th and a 6th, and I don't see you contending for a Super Bowl this year.
No, I hate this move for everybody involved. I think for Jacksonville to really take a swing at bringing in another receiver when you've put, a lot of assets into Brian Thomas Jr. and Travis Hunter. They're both hurt, so now you're going to try to tread water with Jacoby Myers until they get back. That doesn't really make a ton of sense to me. For Jacoby Myers, this stinks because he's got to go play in Jacksonville when the 2 other teams who were sniffing around, the Steelers and the Bills. So 2 real contenders in the AFC that he missed out on playing for. I hate it for those 2 teams because why didn't you give up a 4th and a 6th round pick to go get this guy, or maybe a fourth and a fifth just to try to one up the offer. For Buffalo, I think that makes them the best team in the AFC if they go get Jacoby Myers. I don't understand why they didn't do it. And then for the Raiders, it's another lost team that, you trade this guy and he's on an expiring deal, and that's great. You get a couple picks out of it. But what they've done in the draft recently and for all of the needs that they have to fill, I don't know if it's going to make that much of a difference. And especially with the people in the building right now making decisions, I don't know if they're going to be here long term. And that's, you're giving a lot of power to a person that you don't fully trust. I don't think that's, very smart. But they had to do it at the end of the day. You had to get something for them. So I guess the only winner here is the Raiders, but barely, because it never should have gotten to this point in the first place.
The Raiders are just trying to find ways to be winners right now. I mean, it has been that kind of season in Las Vegas. And, that game last week was bonkers, but I am confident in saying that this is not what Pete Carroll expected, when he stepped back into a head coaching role in the NFL with the Las Vegas Raiders. All right, we're going to take a quick break here. Yeah, that's the truth, I guess. If you want to hang your hat on that, maybe not. We'll talk about some other games on tap. Football coming our way, of course, tomorrow night, because Thursday night football. We'll be back with more on that as we continue right here. Foxborough Rush coming back at you. Foxborough Rush coming back at you on a Wednesday morning, and of course football on tap once again tomorrow night. Week 10 kicking off with none other than the team we were just talking about, those Jacoby Myers-less Las Vegas Raiders in Denver. I just feel like that's my reaction to this game.
Do anything else with your Thursday night. Do not waste your time watching this dog bull football game. It's bad. Don't do it. I watched Heat for the first time last night. Great movie. I'm going to run it back tomorrow night just to get the, really understand everything that happened. I will not be watching this football game. The Broncos will probably win because they're at home and it's the Raiders. Don't watch it.
I like how you'd rather rewatch a movie 48 hours after you watched it than watch Thursday night football between the Raiders and the Broncos.
A movie that came out 30 years ago, by the way. We're not talking
I know, but just making sure that I had that correct.
Yeah.
I had to, just okay.
I really want to know what De Niro was thinking, I have to get the second watch in.
Broncos. I'll take the Broncos. Let's go to Berlin, Germany. That is where the 9:30 Eastern time kickoff will originate from, between the Atlanta Falcons, who we saw up close last week, taking on the Indianapolis Colts and Sauce Gardner, and all ways that he can fit into this system quickly. Who do you like in this one?
This is an interesting one. I think it's a lot closer of a matchup than people might think. The Falcons are so talented. We saw it ourselves this week. Just watching them and the Patriots, the way they matched up physically, they're one of the most talented teams in football. So it'll be interesting. Indy, I think, just as talented, but they're a little bit further along in the development of these players. The star running back, the star receiver, the quarterback. All these guys have been around longer, so they're kind of further along in their development. So I like the Colts. This is a game, by the way. Don't watch Thursday night. Wake up on Sunday and watch this football game. So I think it's going to be really close. And the way kind of things have shaken out, where the Falcons are in desperate need of a win. They're going across overseas. This is the game for them to see whether or not they're contenders or pretenders. So very interesting football game to watch on Sunday morning. I've got the Colts just because they're further along, but it'll be close.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a close one as well. And I think a lot of it's going to come down to, can the Falcons find a way to slow down Jonathan Taylor? If they can find a way to it, they're not going to stop him, but can they at least slow him down? And in doing so, can they force Daniel Jones to make a mistake or two, which, we saw last week. he can do. It will happen. It's been the inverse of what it was historically for him. But can they find a way to do that? And if so, I think this is going to be a close one as well. I'll take the Falcons just to be the contradictor here. But I think we're on the same wavelength on this one, and it's definitely worth watching Sunday morning. New Orleans and Carolina. Obviously, Carolina coming off of a huge win at Lambeau Field, knocking off the Packers last weekend. New Orleans continuing to have some growing pains. We saw them make the move at quarterback. I'll take the Panthers in this one, Keegan.
Yeah, the Panthers are a good football team. I think that's the Patriots' best win outside of Buffalo. Like they're real. The one thing I will say is there was a podcast that they retired because they were so sick of the Panthers, crap. And then the Panthers went on a winning streak. That podcast came back this week. I'm sorry I'm not remembering the name, but if the Panthers lose, they might be in trouble. That they might lose a source of income.
It's permanently disbanded.
Yeah, so we'll see about that. But I've got the Panthers because they're just a better football team.
The New York Giants are in Chicago to take on the Bears. Also, 1:00 kick. This Bears team, they have undoubtedly been moving in the right direction under Ben Johnson. Who do you like in this one?
Yeah, I think just the way they were able to win last week, last second they gave it up and then they came back to win it. That's a momentum carrier. Like that's one that you're carrying over into a game, especially against the Giants. They're struggling right now. They're headed in opposite directions, so I've got the Bears at home.
Yeah, I'll take the Bears as well. Jacksonville down in Houston, another kind of sneaky good game, I would say. Yeah. Who do you like there?
I like the Jags. I know the Texans defense is really good, but that offense has struggled. CJ Stroud, I don't know if he'll be available. He suffered a concussion last week. So Jaguars, they just made a trade. They're really making a push for it. It's a big one against a division opponent, so the home away thing doesn't really matter in divisional matchups. So I'll take the Jags. Yeah,
I mean, that Houston defense could be a problem. I think that's definitely the case for anyone who plays them. I do think a lot of it is. Like, I'm okay taking the Texans if they have CJ Stroud out there, but I just don't know if that's going to be the case. So it depends on how the week goes in terms of concussion protocol and, all that falls under that process as they look to keep players safe from head injuries. Buffalo down in Miami with a 1:00 kick. Miami, looking to find a way to continue to employ Mike McDaniel beyond this season.
The Bills are going to kill him. They're again another team headed up. They're figuring things out on offense, and once they finally do, they're really scary. It's an easy win for the Bills.
Yeah, Buffalo. I'm just going to go with Buffalo. I think that's all I have to say. Another one, honestly, there are some great games this weekend. I think that's the excitement of week 10 or just some of the matchups. And I would include this one in that as well. The Ravens in Minnesota to take on the Vikings, also a 1:00 kick. So get the multi-screens ready in the early window. But the Ravens, look, I mean, they're trying to join 4 teams who have started 1-5 and gone on to make the playoffs. So pretty much every game for them is have to have it game. The Vikings, of course, got Jade McCarthy back. Saw some good things from him. I think you really have to give Kevin O'Connell a lot of credit and the organization a lot of credit and how they handled everything with the quarterback. They could have thrown him out there earlier, but they really wanted him to be healthy and ready to go when he got back out there. I think that's huge in his development. How do you see this one?
I think there will be very few games that I pick against the Ravens moving forward. With Lamar Jackson, they're a different football team, so I've got the Ravens. Zach Orr, the defensive coordinator in that defense against a rookie quarterback, they've struggled, obviously, this year, but talent-wise, they've got a lot of veteran guys. I think they're going to make his life, really difficult on Sunday. So I got the Ravens.
Yeah, got to go Ravens. Cleveland and the New York Jets. Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah. That's going to set viewership records. No one's going to watch that football. I don't think Jets fans are going to watch that game. So I'll take the Browns because the Jets are trying to lose, actively trying to lose. So
yeah, I'll take the Ravens. I'll take the Browns, and I believe you're taking the Bucks over New England. Yes,
I am taking the Bucks. They're a similar team in terms of, kind of where they are or the path that they've taken to open the window. I've talked about the championship window, something I believe in heavily. They're further along on that path. So I've got the Buccaneers. I think the Patriots will keep it close. I think they will be competitive. I think we'll come away from this game being really encouraged by what we saw. I just don't think they're going to come away with the win.
It was week 1 of the 2000 season, the last time we saw a Bucks-Patriots game without a quarterback named Tom Brady. We'll talk about him when we come back. From winning championships to cloning puppies. Yeah. Tom Brady revealed that his current dog, Junie, is a clone of his late dog, Lua, and all thanks to a biotech company that he is an investor in. Keagan, go. What do you think about this?
I know it's like sacrilege to talk bad about Tom Brady around here, but that's weird. Don't do that. These are things that people shouldn't be doing. I know he's an investor. This is probably a ploy to make some more money, even though he has plenty and he's in too many commercials and he does too many weird things to make money. Stop doing stuff like this. If other people invest and try to do this, like AI is bad for the universe. This is worse. Stop cloning things. That's not good.
Yeah, please. Yeah. AI is bad for the universe. Cloning's not good for the universe. Please don't. Just enjoy the memories with the puppy that you had and then make new memories with your new puppy. That's it.
Put a picture on your mantle.
Enjoy the football.